Yeah, languages play a huge role in how we understand the scriptures. Going back to the statement, when people say Greek is a dead language, they are saying 10 million people who are speaking Greeks are dead. And that's like me saying Tamil is a dead language. Of course, there is truth to the fact that there is an evolution of Greek language where it had gone from classical Greek language to Koine Greek language to modern Greek language. Same as English. If we take Chaucer and we read it now, we will scratch our heads and try to understand it. Without a dictionary, we won't be able to. Even Shakespeare is not that very common language that we speak in the street now. And now, though, there are some conversation like the rap music. When I hear it, I have no idea what they are talking about. And because the language has developed in contemporary young people's language, when you say there was a bad shot, that actually meant a good shot. Or he is ugly person sometimes it really means it's a good person. Language changes, and the same way the classical Greek had changed in the time of the Koine Greek in which the New Testament was written, and it has changed to modern language. But there is a very good continuity. I have a thick book on my shelf that explains the continuity of the Greek language where it is common. Take, for example, the word for orthopedic, which is straight foot, which we use, and orthos means straight, pedic from pos for foot. Those words are still in the Greek and still in the Bible and still being used now. Or going to a dentist, dentron is teeth, and that is the same word in the Bible or in the classical Greek. So words haven't changed, pronunciation has changed, and some of the grammar forms have changed. All that is to say, why should we study Greek language? Take for example a command. In English we make one command, shut the door. We make it in present active second singular. That's the only way, or second plural. That's the only way we can make a command. But in Greek, there are multitude ways of making a command. For example, I can say a command in third singular, let him shut the door. Now that doesn't even sound like a command, it sounds like a permission in English, but in Greek you can do that. There's third plural command, there is second present and second plural command, there is aorist command, and there is present command, shutted the door versus shut the door. We don't even say shutted the door, it doesn't make any sense at all. But in Greek, so every form that we have, subjunctive forms, there's even subjunctive way of making a command. There are even statements that are commands, and so the language is so versatile. Unless you learn, I'm talking about Greek, but the same is true of Hebrew. Unless you see the importance of it, to illustrate it in a shorter way, my teacher used to say reading the Bible in an English translation versus reading it in Greek and Hebrew is like watching a story on a black and white television versus a color television. When you're watching, and I know your audience probably have never seen a black and white television. There was a time there was a black and white television. Yeah, a good movie, if you're slightly adult to watch, is Schindler's List, where the whole movie is in black and white except one little girl's pink dress. Yeah, and the producer had done an amazing job of focusing on that, so when that girl finally dies, we identify with her death. Why is there color? Because that makes a contrast. The same way reading a translation is black and white, but when you see it in Hebrew or in Greek, it is much more colorful. I'll give one example. It's my son's name, Yedadiah. Nathan comes to David after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba and lost the first child. Now he has a second child, and Nathan shows up again, and you can imagine David thinking, oh no, is this child gonna also die? And Nathan says to him, no, the son will live. Name him Yedadiah, because the Lord loves him. Now, in a simple English translation, it just means the Lord loves Solomon, whom he names him as Jedediah or Jedediah in English, and that's why Solomon lived. But in the Hebrew, the middle consonants are David. So the writer is saying God loves him, that is David. Yeah? And so in the Hebrew language, it's a play on words. God loves Solomon, but God loves David more. And that's the reason he didn't let the son die. And so it's an affirmation. So you can imagine David calling Solomon Jedediah and reminding himself, the Lord loves me. Yeah, but he does, of course, we have the name Solomon, which probably was his kingly name, but the father would have called him Jedediah and reminded him of God's faithfulness. And there are so many things like that. The word for partiality is prospholymbia, taking upon a face. So when you see a friend, you smile, but when you see an enemy, you frown. That's taking up different faces, depends upon how you look at a person. And that's just how the words are, but when you start looking at the grammar and the usage and the little tricky stuff here and there, that scriptures become alive. When Jesus says in the Great Commandment, "Lo, I am with you always," he splits the "I am," where he says, "Lo, I with you am." And that's a picturesque way of saying I am is before and after you when you go to do your ministry. And that's the picture of Old Testament when they left Egypt. The cloud went before and the cloud went after. So Jesus is picturesquely saying to the people, when you go and do discipleship, I go before and I come after. And that's beautifully there in the text. You can't see it in English.